My microphone was muted the whole time and I didn't know that. Whoops. Okay. Anyway, my microphone was muted the whole time and there I am. Okay. So, now that I got everything set up, I said hello, Miller. Sorry you didn't hear it because I didn't know that you couldn't hear me. It's 1 a.m. It is not 1 a.m. It's actually 12 in the morning for me. So, but yeah. We're going to be doing a Lake of Voices visual horror novel, and I'm going to be telling you that right now, telling you about it right now. That's why I have the whole display you can see. So, I went on the free-to-play page on Steam, just looking around for random horror things, and this popped up and looked pretty interesting. So, Lake of Voices, which is right here, I'm going to read this little thingy to you. A free horror visual novel about an ill-fated journey across Sinlos? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Sinlos. A lake where gruesome monsters lurk just beneath the surface. With times being so dire, you'll need to decide what and who is going to be sacrificed. Anyone can be saved, but not everyone can be. So, it says that it has mostly positive views. It was released August 28, 2018. And the developer and publisher is GB Patch Games. So if you want to play this for yourself, definitely go to the free-to-play, or you can look at visual novel, and you should find Lake of Voices on the Steam page. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this to where you don't see this. Okay. So now all you see is my face. My ugly ass face. Okay. Alright. Hello, Jason. Welcome. So we're going to go ahead and get things rolling. Give me a minute. I think I have to come on here. I don't have a game set up for this. Whoops. Okay, so play. I'm gonna let it go so I can actually go onto here, add a source, game capture, new source, like voices, love for short, specific window, Lake of Voices, done. Alright. Just take effects. Looks good, I guess. Gamepad. Ooh, cool. I can use my controller. Alright. Calibrate. I don't know. Maybe it's not going to let me work it. Who knows? We'll see. Whatever. I don't want to change anything. Do I just quit? Okay. Let's hope that it works, because I didn't really test it to see if it worked. Oh, never mind. It started again. Spooky. Hang on. I needed to make sure that it worked. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this. it's cutting it off. The borders are like broken. It's not working correctly. Okay, there's the edge of the game, but the borders are wrong. That's so weird. Okay, since that is being weird, I'm gonna just, for now, boop that and boop this on. I don't know what's up with it. It's being weird. So, text speed. I'm gonna put it up a little faster. I don't want it to be too slow. Yeah. Save, load, quit. Okay, this is what we got. Return. Okay, I guess we'll just start. This is Lake of Voices. Choices. You'll need to make various decisions throughout Lake of Voices. Here are a few details to keep in mind. Ow. Choices are timed. I hate timed things. Time running out isn't something to completely avoid. In some cases, not getting involved can open new possibilities. Other choices aren't timed. These options only determine whether Kika, I guess that's our character, has any special attention for another character or not. Okay. If you survive until the second night of... you could die in the first night. If you survive until the second night of the story... the story will branch into one of 5 different plot lines based on your earlier decisions. Okay, so there's 5 different endings I'm seeing. The looping music there. But as I said, it's a free-to-play game, so... the other characters cannot manage all situations in the various plot lines regardless of what you do. If a character isn't making it, try getting that plot with a different set of survivors, or having the same group of characters venture through some other storyline. Okay. I've never done horror. I am a coming-of-age novel author / streamer. Is this going to be too much for me? Probably not. I mean, I've never done like any kind of novel horror thingies, so that's gonna make me better at reading. Okay, becoming closer to someone can add and or remove future choice options that looping, and change how some scenes play out. Your decision to build that connection may not go unnoticed by the other characters. Okay. Self-knowing characters. I like that. Earning the full amount of affection with certain characters can require getting into specific plot lines. Is this a dating scenario? Because I'm taken. I can't date you guys. You're fictional. I'm sorry. Okay, so page up key returns to previous text choice. Okay, so page up, and T key opens full text history. Okay. Interesting. Okay. That was very fast. Let's tone that down a little. Okay, return. My grip on my lantern tightens as the fog around us thickens. While the forests in this area are relatively safe compared to Sinelos, I can't help but feel my hair stand on end the further we get. My free hand fingers the hilt of my sword, something akin to a nervous reflex.
Have you seen it before?
Voice acting? What? I thought I was only gonna be okay. Bemili? Have you seen it before? Or is that Bemil? I'm gonna say Bemil. Bemil breaks the silence, either sensing my unease or a saw. This is gonna be really hard for you to read, because some of these words I've never heard of before. A saguing? just have fun trying to watch me comprehend what this is. His own. I hope it's the latter.
I haven't. I've had no reason to go near this cursed lake until now. What of you?
So this is Kika. I think this is the person we're playing. Emil scratches his chin casually, as though I asked what his favorite food is.
I traveled the long way around it once before. Not so pleasant. Something about it just frays your nerves.
The music is overpowering the sound of them talking a little bit, so I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna put it down a little more. Although, even being near it is enough. So I'm not the only one who feels it. A sense of relief hits me, but not enough to undo the buzzing of anxiety. The lake, Sinlos. Most try their best to avoid it all their lives. The hundreds who die attempting to cross its unearthly black water, dragged to death by the creatures lurking within, aren't a secret.
No wonder you were assigned this mission.
There are a few who've had first-hand experience with the place, even if from a distance. He'll probably keep being picked whenever they need someone to cross, for however long he's with us. Bamil shrugs, bringing my attention back to the dark path before us.
At least we're taking the bridge this time. It'll only take 2 days instead of double that, and the sooner this place is behind us, the better.
It would be preferable not to risk it. But time is of the essence. We don't really have a choice.
One of our allied villages, Hemmer, is being harassed by brigaders? A band of ruffians? Brigaders. Yeah, sort of. We don't have many guards to send This is so hard for me to fucking talk and not fuck up. To send as an assist, only Bamil and myself. The least we can do is arrive before we are too late to be of any use. These kind of squabbles happen often, but have to be put down lest they turn into a blood grunge or an all-out war. The last we heard, neither option was that far off.
I can also see why they chose you to come out here.
I glance at Bamil, an eyebrow raised. A slight smile plays across his lips.
You're always so calm and so serious. Nothing can get to you.
Serious?
You're the best choice they had.
A smile now tugs at my own lips. I'd like to thank him, but that wouldn't be so calm and serious as he just described. And if that's how he sees me, I'd like to keep it that way. My lack of reaction only makes his smile grow, and he chuckles a bit before refocusing on the path. I do the same. It wouldn't be right to let my guard down in a place like this. Bamil appears to feel differently, however.
You know the town on the other side of the lake, though. It's not so similar to ours. If all goes well, perhaps we'll have enough time to enjoy the new area.
For the most part, I ignore him, nodding when applicable. Bamil is a talkative sort, and if chatting helps keep his worries down and his sword hand ready, I have no complaints. After a time, the thick fog surrounding us begins to clear. A slick wooden dock comes into view, and with it the sounds of water gently lapping at its sides. Bamil shifts beside me, stretching his lantern arm as far as it'll go. He seems tense.
Someone's already here.
Oh, hello. Also, I love the art style. Look at these marks. Look how beautifully done this is. Wow. I love it. A young woman stands by the dock, eyeing us warily. Does she intend to cross tonight? Evidently, she has the same question. As we step up next to her, it's clear she isn't simply passing by. She's waiting. The stranger nods curtly to us.
Margaret.
Margaret.
Kiga the Steadfast.
Kiga. Okay. The Steadfast.
Bemele.
Bemele.
Hello?
Okay. Kiga and Bemele. There's a stuffy silence. Margaret turns to gaze out across the lake, expression unclear, with not much to say. Bemele, I think he said it was, and I do the same. No! From here, the black surface of the lake looks disarmingly calm. Wind rushes across its surface, a sound like whispering. That was not whispering. Or, that was not wind. That was whispering. Though, perhaps it actually is whispering. I concentrate, trying to place the difference, searching for breaks in rhythm. After a few seconds, I feel foolish. It doesn't matter what the noise is, whether I hear them or not. We're not alone. The Nixie are out here. Nixie? Yeah, Nixie, whatever. A feeling that I can't quite shake tells me they've already noticed a little group of people on their shores. It feels hostile. Ugh. My stomach sinks, and I instead address whatever.
Where is the guide?
Where's the...
Unless he's on the center island, or on the complete other side, your guess is as good as mine. It's dark as pitch out there.
Panic rises inside of me. Panic I try hard to quell.
We can't cross without him, and we need to get going soon.
Wonder why they have to get going so
You can't cross
soon.
with him either.
The woman behind us, Margaret, cuts in with something like a snort.
What?
I know the guide will be here tonight. I have already made arrangements with him to cross.
I'm gonna just call him Bamil. I forgot what he said his name was. Bamil and I share a look. The woman seems haughty. I need to learn how to English and willing to put up a fuss.
I have his word he'll take me today. It would be wiser for the two of you to begin the trip around if you're really in such a hurry. Or you can make camp here and wait for him to make the trip back if you prefer.
I don't need to turn my attention to Bamil to know he's riled up. I step in before he can say something rash.
Even if that is so, my companion and I must begin the trip tonight.
Margaret is unimpressed and opens her mouth to argue further.
We'll wait for the guide to arrive before coming to a conclusion about any of this.
She clamps her mouth shut, then lets out a sigh.
You can do as you like.
With the matter attentively settled, Bamil moves away. His finger begins to tap loudly against the top of his hilt. He shifts from one foot to another, then groans.
What's that bastard even up to?
Ooh, they're swearing. Ooh, M-rated. I almost visibly start, but manage to restrain myself. He probably doesn't know any better. I'm sure of that. It's not worth mentioning.
With a mouth like that, you shouldn't even have the right to ask the guide to take you across.
Ooh.
How ludicrous. He's faced far worse than a bit of foul language.
Bastard.
Do you know anything that's happened with this lake?
I know enough.
Margaret is clearly not convinced, but she shrugs and makes a show of turning her back to him.
The guide's father is Garvin the Exemplar. Garvin never accepted the guide as his son, all the way up until he died, in this lake. Your statement could be seen as tasteless.
Oh.
Bamil rubs the back of his neck, his face regretful.
My apologies to the guide. I didn't mean it that way. I never knew about his... well, that.
A smile spreads across my face, one I quickly wipe away. He really did just misspeak. The silence slowly stretches between the three of us, growing more awkward with each passing second. Margaret seems irritated and Bemil abashed. Okay. Time to make a decision. You're quite informed, Margaret. I'm sure you are forgiven, Bemil, or say nothing. Okay. So do we want to say something to him, say something to her, or say nothing to either of them? I think for this sake, I'm going to stick with him, because I don't know who this lady is. I guess I've known this person for a little while. So I'm sure you've been forgiven.
I know you. You are brash but not intentionally cruel. I'm sure all is well.
Emil smiles and claps me on the back. Don't slap
You're
me.
a good woman, Kika. Smart, too. You've never been here, yet you knew more of the guy than I did.
I know about Garvin, truthfully. Tales of his deeds were some of the only stories my parents ever told.
Is that so? You could tell me more about it sometime.
I pause, unsure how to respond to this type of request.
I would like that very much.
Oh, he's blushing!
Yes, I wouldn't mind that. It must wait until after this trip, though.
He's blushing.
Of course. We should drop this topic sooner rather than later, in any case.
I agree.
Even if there's no harm meant, hearing someone mention Garvin, was it Garvin? I think so. It's probably difficult for the guide, no matter what the circumstance. With the topic dropped, we each remain locked inside our own thoughts, not another word passing between us. Eventually, a small light appears on the bridge ahead, gently swaying through the foggy air. Does that bridge go all the way across? Or is it like it's a bridge that goes out to the lake and then you have to like go with a boat or something? I don't know. It gets closer and closer until it becomes apparent it's a figure carrying a lantern. That must be the guide, although I can't shake the ghostly aura it gives off. The figure steps onto the shore, but we wait for him to approach us instead of going to meet him. None of us are sure how close to the waters we can get before it is no longer safe. He stops in front of us and simply stares.
Are you the guide of Sinlos?
Sinless. The man nods. He has a sharp face and weary eyes.
Well, that's grand. We would like an escort across the lake.
Bemil motions to the two of us, and Margaret approaches, a strained smile on her face.
Hello, it's good to see you again. I'm ready to cross, as we've agreed upon.
The guide turns to face her as well, face remaining unchanged. It might not be a lie. He would have had to say something otherwise. She really does have preference to travel with him. That's a problem.
Is there a way we can all begin the trip tonight?
How long is this lake?
Yes, I will allow all three
She
of you
speaks.
to go. But with that many, at least one will die before we reach the other side.
Damn, he just let it straight out like, you're gonna die if you go, by the way, so. I furrow my brow. It's a disturbing addendum, and one offered with little emotion attached. Emil glares back, asking without asking what we're supposed to do with such circumstances.
You should go around.
The sentence hangs in the air, the second half unspoken, if you want to live.
We don't have time for that! There are people counting on us for protection. Why does she need to go?
He jerks a finger at Margaret, whose face contorts with anger.
I don't need to explain myself to you. My journey has already been put off once, and I was promised I could go today. I will be going under any circumstances.
She meets Bamil's eyes with a gaze of steel. He starts to speak, and she cuts in.
An extra day or two shouldn't be that much of a problem for you. Whoever you're meeting can surely wait such a tiny amount longer. Patience is a virtue, after all.
The night is only so long, and if we're still on the bridges when the sun comes up, we'll all die as they sink back below the surface. If you don't decide soon, no one will be going.
The guide is dispassionate, stoic, whatever. I would almost feel something's wrong with him if I didn't share the trait myself. Bamil pulls me to the side, jaw clenched tight.
That woman isn't armed.
His voice is low. He darts a glance at Margaret.
We can easily get her to back off if we make this into an actual fight. After all, we have to go tonight, yes? If one of us really is to die, it'll be her. Would staying be a worse fate than her death?
I stare at the dock, refusing to meet Bamil's eyes, and try to keep my voice as level as possible.
We don't know her situation. This isn't a decision we can make for her.
What?
Bamil leans in closer, apparently having missed what I said. I remove the sympathy for her in my response when I speak again.
The guide won't accept something like that, I assume.
His face is grim.
Then what else do you have in mind?
First of all, you and I cannot split up. Either we both stay, or we both go.
Right. That's not a question.
I cross my arms, a hand on my chin. I have full confidence in my abilities, and in Bamil's, but there's no reason not to believe the guide knows exactly what he's talking about. If we go, we might not be able to give the group the attention we each deserve. That would mean we truly would be putting Margaret's life at risk on top of our own. Believe we should go.
And I believe you.
Fuck it. Bamil's reply is firm. My steadfastness seems almost weak in comparison to its certainty. He addresses the guide.
We shouldn't waste more time. Let's shove off.
The guide slowly turns around, without even a nod to show his agreement. Margaret stares at Bamil and me, something of a resolve in her gaze. Then she follows after the guide. At least she didn't insist we stay behind.
We should do what we can to protect her. It's our fault she's being put in even further danger.
Exactly my thoughts. We will take care of everything. Maybe I'm being naive, but I have no intentions of letting anyone fall victim to this lake tonight. Those monsters can starve.
I smile at him for a change, and Bamil equally smiles back.
We're lucky to have each other in this, I think.
You gonna blush again? He turns to follow the others across. I will protect everyone on this trip. I will. We will make it through this. Then I step onto the dock and join them. I got an achievement called Begin. As soon as I step onto the wood, the temperature drops. The light of my lamp shines against the water's surface, as reflective as a mirror. Until we reach land again, death is only one small mistake away. We fall into line, with the guide leading the way. Margaret stays close to him, and I behind her, watching to make sure she doesn't slip on the slick, wet wood. Bamil brings up the rear. Each of us hold our lanterns in front of us, but it does little good. The fog is thick and nigh impenetrable, consuming the light as if hungry for it. Above the surface of the lake, it's deathly quiet. No longer is there the whispering wind, nor the sound of water lapping against the shore. It's just our own mismatched footsteps and the sound of my quickened breathing. My eyes drift back to the lake against my better judgment. It's no wonder there's Are those clouds in the water? It's no wonder there's not even the sound of water with how still the surface is. It seems almost sturdy with the sheen of a black marble floor. So is that like clouds in the sky? Because there's like little white specks. Is that like stars? Because I know it's night. I've heard rumors the water of Sinlos is heavier, more difficult to disturb than natural water. That just the weight of its oppressive cling is enough to keep someone down, even without them. Something even darker than the abyss of the lake flickers just below the surface, or at least, I think it does. I turn my gaze to Margaret's back. It's better to stay focused.
Fall back a bit. You're following me too closely.
Oh, Mr. I need my personal space. The guide is looking over his shoulder, addressing Margaret.
I'm sorry.
If someone gets pulled into the lake, they'll instinctively reach for anything to hold on to. Do not let that be you.
That's why he's saying, get back the fuck off, bitch. Margaret's shoulders rise, and she nods with great seriousness.
I understand. Thank you for the advice.
He ignores her gratitude.
You can speak amongst yourselves if you so choose, as long as you pay attention to where you're going. There is no worth in listening to the sounds out there. If there's anything at all, it'll only be Nixie trying to set you on edge.
Nixie.
All right. Then, could you tell us your name? You didn't have a chance to properly introduce yourself, and I've only heard you being referred to as the guide.
I don't have a name.
Ooh, Mr. Mysterious. He's facing the front again, his voice as expressionless as ever. I have no way of guessing how he feels as he says this.
Oh.
It's probably not something he wishes to talk about. However, there was something else I wanted to say, so changing the subject is not difficult.
Margaret, thank you for allowing us to join you.
Margaret shrugs non-commently. Comedily, whatever.
It wasn't exactly up to me. The guide said he would take you.
She hesitates, and then she looks tentatively over her shoulder at me.
But thank you for saying that. It's appreciated.
Aw, you're welcome.
Bemele and I will do our best to be an
Bemele.
asset on this trip, rather than a burden.
That's nice. I'm not afraid to be out here, though. Still, at least with your training, you should be able to take care of yourselves.
It's comforting to know that everyone here is so confident in their abilities. Not enough to forget how terrible it feels to be over this lake. I'm not sure if that is fortunate or unfortunate. Believing yourself to be secure doesn't mean that you are. Oh! As the conversation lulls, a new sound breaks through. It's the whispering noise again. It's the chatter of inhuman voices, and this time coming from all around us.
Taking care of yourself is exactly what you need to do.
The guide is speaking again, except louder, as if to cover the Nixie's voices with his own.
Work to survive at all costs, and hope that everyone around you has enough sense to do the same. That's the only way you'll make it to the other side.
Margaret nods in response, but I hear a grunt from behind me.
Groups tend to go further when they work together to achieve the same goal.
The guy doesn't say anything in response to Bemele's whatever, grumbling either. I'm not sure whether he didn't hear Bemele or whether he just didn't feel the statements made thus far are worthy of addressing. I have a feeling it's the latter. We go around a large bend in the bridge, part of it forking off to another way. Where the fuck are these bridges going? Like, holy shit. I didn't know that the bridge had like 5,000 different ways to go. I wonder how the guide knows which one of these essentially identical paths is correct, when something in the corner of my eye catches my attention.
I believe I saw something over there.
Keep walking. No need to worry.
The guide's voice is calm and level. I decide against pressing the issue, not wanting to set everyone even more on edge.
What did he say?
Perhaps not wanting the conversation to be caught by the guide, he speaks softly, though I couldn't quite hear him because of it. I take my eyes off Margaret ahead for a moment to explain it to Bamile, whatever, and stop dead in my tracks. Only one word is able to escape me in my stunned state.
Behind
Bamile stands another figure looming in the darkness. Seeing my face, Bamile grabs the hilt of my sword. He whips around and staggers swiftly backwards. Several meters away, a crooked, twisted black figure hobbles its way towards us. Some kind of liquid drips off its head, curling around the edges of its face. It almost looks like it's crying. Bamile backs up until he's standing beside me. The figure continues to slow advance, head jerking from one angle to another.
What on earth?
It's one of them.
Like, it looks like it's twisted backwards. Like, its knees are going backwards. Its back is, like, arched with its turning and it's twisted. Okay.
Yes, Nixie that stumble across the bridges looking for opportunities.
The guide is standing next to us. I didn't even notice him approach.
The ones that can make it out of the water are generally referred to as prowlers.
I had no idea things like that were out here. Is that what Kika saw down the other path?
Probably. The guide says nothing, instead returning to the front of the party. Margaret watches him pass. Her frustration morphs into nervousness, optimism, when something seems to come into her mind.
Well, Nixie aren't slowed down much by swords, but at least the light keeps them away, right?
Margaret's hands gripped her face tight, and desperation bleeds into her voice. I bite the inside of my lip.
Direct light will force it to return to the lake. However, it'll try to drag the light, or you, down with it before it goes.
Ugh. I don't like that. Instinctively, I reach for the hilt of my sword, despite the fact that it would do little to protect me. The prowler is getting closer, jerking forward, stopping, then resuming its slow advance.
Okay. Does anyone have a light we can leave here? That way it won't follow us.
Bitch, no! We're not leaving shit.
Only matches.
Yeah, burn the bridge. That's what you should really do. Bamile spits. He's the one bringing up the rear, so he's the one most likely to be in danger if it keeps following. The guide, however, moves forward.
Don't forget it's there, don't let your guard down, and don't get left behind.
What? How am I supposed to keep walking with this thing at my heels? You said it wants to attack.
Don't give it the chance.
Bamile sputters in anger, and the guide summarily ignores him. I solidly grab hold of Bamile's upper arm.
Here, I'll lead you like this, and you can keep your focus solely on the prowler. Make sure it doesn't get too close.
Bamile eyes the guide with unresolved hostility, but allows himself to softly sigh in relief. He gazes at me with fondness.
At least there's someone I can count on.
Despite the fact I'm going against his advice, the guide says nothing more. It's clear now that he doesn't give a damn what we end up doing. Some part of me is glad for that. I want to help everyone make it through, and it would be worse to have to persuade the guide every time help was necessary.
Kika, thank you.
Bamile places a gentle hand on my shoulder. Place my hand over his, nods seriously. I'm fine. I feel Bamile start as I reciprocate. I'm bad at English, I'm sorry. His touch, but just as quickly a smile replaces his shock. Oh, he's blushing again. The moment is pleasant, a small balm against a large burn. I harden my expression and Bamil follows suit. No, Jesus, that changed fast. He moves his free arm down where? Okay. I fully link his arm with mine and now properly settled, look forward. Margaret is following the guide with some reluctance. Turning back every so often to check on us, I wave my lantern to signal we're catching up. Margaret returns her head to the front and quickens her pace. With a tug on Bamil, we start to follow him. Or melee. Oh, what is that? The four of us continue cautiously over the bridges. Only this time the wet, squishing footsteps of the prowler join the sound of our own. In spite of myself, I grip Bamil tighter. The prowler walks without a set pattern, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. It takes long steps, then short ones. At times it stops walking entirely. Does it hurt to be out of the water like this? Or is it trying to be difficult to read? Suddenly, the whispering in the lake grows louder. I steel myself, trying not to let it get to me. The most important thing in a situation like this is to remain calm. I can't lose my head. Then, all at once, I notice the guide and Margaret have come to a halt.
Bemele, they're stopping.
Bamele, whatever, slows down as I do, and as we near Margaret's back, she says with something akin to distress.
There's another one.
I tug on Bamil and he understands. We draw close to Margaret, ready to protect her if need be. But the guide holds out a hand.
Don't get any closer.
Just over his shoulder, I see another prowler stumbling towards us, white liquid dripping from its eyes. The guide's hand turns over in the air, palm up.
Give me a lantern. We'll throw it.
Margaret extends her own with a trembling hand when Bamil asks instead, his back still turned. Bamil speaks instead. I don't know where I got asks from.
If you have to take someone's, take mine.
Yes, an extra light won't do us much good when we're standing this close together.
Margaret takes Bamil's lantern from him, guarded relief displayed on her features.
Thank you.
She hands the lantern to the guide, whose hands grip it tightly, knuckles growing pale.
Stay here.
Knocking.
I can't throw it too far. The light will blow out before it reaches the Nyx.
He steps closer to the monster, his movements light and confident. As he nears the prowler, starts to back away. Is it only the approaching light that makes it retreat, or are they afraid of him? You can see like the femur bone or something. So these are dead humans or something? The guide is far enough away from us that the fog is partially obscuring him, hiding his movements. The voices from the lake grow louder and louder. Oh my god. Water suddenly begins to splash across the lake, in the distance, and onto the ledges of the bridge. Hello there. Hi, Guinea. Welcome. They want him to mess up. Then suddenly, the guy takes multiple long and fast strides forwards, throws the lantern, and jumps backwards to regain the lost distance. There's it sounded like a deflating balloon. There's a sharp hiss and then a deep splash, and the voices of the Nixie grow quieter, not silent but quieter. A sigh escapes me, and the guide comes back to our group.
We should keep going, before it comes back.
I glance at Bamil and realize he, too, is looking relieved at the guide before us. And then I see it. Ah! The fuck? The first prowler, it's still there. It's right there. Jesus. Pull Bamil forward. Yep. I shift around, pulling Bamil behind me. The prowler lunges after him, barely missing Bamil, but striking my lantern instead. The fire goes out, and the two of us are plunged into an unearthly darkness. Don't tell me that I just got them both killed. Then there's a slick splash. I realize the Nyx has retreated into the water. Somehow Bamil and I are still standing. We're still here. Oh my god. I thought I just got them both fucking killed.
Kika, thank you.
I can't respond. Something cold, wet, and slimy has grabbed my ankle. Fuck! I'm fucked. Kick it off. I kick my leg out as fast as I can, and the next hold slips. It can't pull with the momentum I've gained against it. Margaret rushes to my side, her lantern hanging out towards the Nyx. The light brushes its face. We see it for an instant, its eyes wide, and then it slides back into the smooth surface of the water. We're all alive. Oh my god. I thought I was about to fucking kill myself. Bamil grabs Margaret and I both, helping us towards the center of the bridge and cussing under his breath.
I only looked away for 1 second.
It's fine, Bamele.
Bamele,
We're all
whatever.
fine.
Are you actually alright?
Margaret cocks her head down, examining my ankle, but there's nothing but a wet smudge across my trousers.
I am fine.
I say that, though I don't actually want to let go of Bamil. I need to, in order to relight our lantern and provide us actual safety, but I feel such a strong desire not to be alone in this moment. I shake my head roughly and let go of him, relighting the lantern as fast as I'm able.
Kika, thank you. Again. You saved my life. I won't let this happen again.
Yes. Yes. It would be good for all of us to pay more attention.
Margaret nods solemnly. Suddenly, it seems like we're all on the same side. It isn't only Bamil and I. She is with us in more than simply presence. The guide's voice, as cold as the monster's grasp, ends my train of thought.
We lost the lantern I threw. The Nyx grabbed it after the light went out.
Margaret makes a noise. I glance over, wondering whether she's upset, but there's a small smile on her face instead.
It's better than them taking anything else.
That's true. A nervous laugh bubbles up out of me, and just as quickly stops. Bamil chuckles in response, and our collective tension eases up, the adrenaline draining from our bodies.
We need to keep walking.
The guide starts down the bridge again, and we join him. I try to clamp down on the relief. The ease that wants to flood my head it's not over. The prowler is gone, but so is Bamil's lantern.
You can stay near me,
So we lost the
Bamele,
lantern.
since
Bamele,
your lantern
whatever.
is lost.
I appreciate it.
Margaret goes on ahead of us. Bamil stays by my side as I keep at the end of the line. And now I'm at the end, so that's great. The breath of release for Margaret and Bamil is quickly swallowed by the somber atmosphere of Sinelos, as well, replaced by the gravity of the near-death experience. Never mind celebrating his survival, something like that shouldn't have happened in the first place. The memory of the prowlers reaching out towards us appears each time I close my eyes.
Why does it look like something's dripping down their faces?
The prowlers are on Margaret's mind too. Looking at her pained expression, it's as though the moment of relief never existed at all.
I'm not sure.
Me neither. Something's wrong with them, though.
They live in water. Air shouldn't be good for the things, but they want to drown humans so much they're willing to drag themselves around on land? It's not right.
Mother Nature. Of course it isn't. They're monsters. They likely do not understand even the concept of right and wrong.
Well, I don't disagree that there's something very wrong about them. I truly, truly hope that's the last we'll see of the prowlers.
Probably not. Something comes to her mind, causing Margaret to end her part of the conversation early.
Since you two have to share a light, wouldn't it be safer to be in the middle?
Margaret stops and waits for Bamil and I to reach her position.
That way, you'll catch the edges of my light and the guides, and it won't be so dangerous if Bamele loses his position momentarily.
That's a very kind offer, Margaret.
Bamil's surprise is so apparent. I want to cover his face with my hands to stop him from insulting her. She merely smirks. I think Margaret may be surprised with herself too. Bamil returns to his usual surety.
As thoughtful as it is, I, at least, am fine with bringing up the rear. I'm used to keeping watch for monsters, and since there are two of us, I can pay attention to the back while Kika focuses ahead. It's not my light, though, so I shouldn't be the one to decide what she should do with it.
Margaret and Bramil turned to look at me in unison. Seems like it's my decision. Okay, decision time, I guess. Neither of them are wrong. As for me, my goal is to protect everyone. I can't very well do that with Margaret following behind us. But being stuck in the middle of the group could also be dangerous depending on what circumstances we come across. Getting pincered by the enemy would be an almost sure death, no matter how experienced Bamil and I are. I just don't know what to expect from this bridge, and that makes things so much more difficult. The current format has worked so far. I'd like to move up, thank you. No.
So you're staying behind?
I'm staying at the behind.
Seems like it.
Yes, I think we'll be good here. But
We'll be
really,
fine,
thank you.
I think.
That was a very kind offer.
Well, alright.
Margaret respects our decision and trots ahead a bit to catch back up with the guide, he who has paid no mind to the entire affair.
So, I don't want to sound like a child, but how much longer until we arrive at the halfway point?
Are we there yet? Margaret chuckles, reflecting the amusement I don't want to
We
vocalize.
still have some ways to go.
Damn.
I suppress my laughter yet again at his pouting response. The gloom we've been under dissipates slightly, the light flickering through the fog.
The first trial tends to be the most difficult. I believe we will only react better from this point on.
I like the way you think.
Then a gleam enters Bamil's eyes and he grins.
I think Kika deserves a round of applause. Her quick reflexes are owed the utmost appreciation.
He leans softly on into my shoulder, trying to get me to what?
It was indeed a sight. You're quite capable. Bemele was also a sight, but for very different reasons. The way he froze with his mouth all agape was a laugh in itself.
Lady, he almost died. Bamil shakes a fist at Margaret in mock anger, then shoots me an affectionate look.
You should know, she and I are usually on equal footing.
The only reason you had footing at all is because she pulled you back.
Bamil laughs self-consciously, scratching his head.
That's very true. You can always count on Kika.
I keep my eyes steadily ahead, unsure how I should respond. I'm pleased, almost grateful, to hear what they think of me. But I don't know what I could say that wouldn't seem pathetic. Instead, I contribute the best way I can. I keep my focus on the path ahead of us. Without a response from me, the conversation quickly dies out. Still, it eases my heart to be on such friendly terms with my companions. After some time, I notice Margaret isn't keeping up with the guide as much as she used to before. I added in words, but whatever. I realize it's because the guide has increased his pace. Margaret begins to jog in an effort to keep up with him, and Bamil and I do the same. Despite this, the guide keeps getting further away. We go faster and faster until suddenly the full-on sprinting across the slick wooden boards. Figures in the dark fog fly past us at a blur, and it occurs to me the branching paths in the bridge appear to be sinking? I try to swallow my rising panic. The guide shouts something, but it's drowned out by the frantic pounding of our footsteps. I'm trying to piece together what he said. Don't stop, turn. When he takes a masterfully sharp right down a different path, using his own momentum and the sleek wood to slide into the new direction with no loss of speed. Margaret must not have worked out the warning either, as she is completely caught off guard by the guide's changing course. She went straight ahead past the turn and continues down the path we've been following up until now. You fucking idiot. Why don't you just, slow down slowly and then walk back? She clumsily begins to halt her momentum down the wrong bridge. Then I come upon the fork. Turn. I make a hard turn following the guide and leaving Margaret at the rear. Uh-oh. I thought she was gonna... I think I just killed her. But Emil's footsteps stay as loud as they were before. He's made the turn as close behind me as ever. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Margaret turn around and try to come back to us, only to have the bridge in front of her fall away.
I just fucking killed her!
I slow down for a breath, feeling the impulse to turn back, but ignore it. There's no time. Margaret can make the jump, but then she'll rejoin us. I keep my eyes glued to the guide's back, ears perked for Margaret's footsteps approaching behind us. Ow. I hiccuped, and then I hear it. A scream. I killed her. I whip around, sliding... now I have hiccups. That's great. I whip around, sliding it to a stop. Margaret is sinking. The bridge she's on is sinking into the water. Ow. She's disappearing. She didn't jump.
What are you doing?
Margaret's head shoots up, her face drained of all color.
Jump!
She stumbles near the edge of the bridge, staring at the placid water of the lake. Even from a distance, I can hear her shaking. I can't say if it is from the bridge's descent or her own fear. She barely seems to remember standing. I swallow painfully. Margaret bends and tries to jump. She curves in a small arc, achieving more height than she should, and lands directly in the lake with a muted splash. Emil starts beside me, but I grab his hand and pull. We start running again, leaving Margaret flailing in the water behind us. Bitch dead! We don't need to watch this. We both know exactly what will happen to her now. Margaret's anguished cries pierce the night. Then the screaming stops. My legs grow weak. Inevitability is an achievement I just got. It isn't right, but I push myself to keep going. Emil curses between heavy breaths, calling those things every foul name in his large book. I try to focus on the pounding of my feet, but my brain won't cooperate. Instead, I imagine Margaret's terror as she's clawed to pieces by the Nixie. After everything, I didn't help her. We left her in the dark. As the night wears on, our strength rapidly fades. How much longer will this last? People have to rest sometime. Almost as if in response to my thought, the guide abruptly halts. I skid to a stop as well, sliding on the surface of the wood.
Why did we stop?
Emil's voice is tired, but his guard is up. The guide doesn't answer, just stares at something slightly out of view. I step up to join him, following the gaze further down the path. There, curled in a low ball, illuminated by the lantern's light, cowers a person. His hands grip his head, and he rocks from side to side, mumbling incoherently.
It's a man.
What? It's a man. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Please. I'm sorry.
I'm struck with an array of questions. What is going on? Why would he wander out into these bridges on his own? He didn't make it this far by himself. Were there others with him? If that's somehow the case, I can't blame him for the state of shock he's in. The man stops mumbling. He glances above him, seemingly only just now having the strength to lift his head. His expression, the deepest sadness, along with the clear markings of terror, are scrawled on across his face. I stare at him in shock, not sure what to do.
Leave him.
I snap my eyes away from the man, and instead to the guide's cold, implacable face.
No! We can't just leave him here. Without light, it's certain he'll die.
He won't make it regardless.
The guide turns to look at us, his eyes seeming to glow from the closeness of his lantern. For the first time, I feel uncomfortable in his presence.
Whoever shelters him will only risk dragging themselves down with him. Leave him.
I glance at my partner, but Emil is outraged. I'm trying to think of some kind of compromise when the guide speaks again, his voice cutting.
If the man comes, then whoever is shielding him will have to remain at a distance from the rest of the group. Far enough that you can't see me, just my light. That is how you will travel across the bridges.
I don't think I'm gonna do that.
I didn't agree to lead this man, and I won't. If you ask me to, I will leave you all behind.
Adrenaline surges through my veins and I tense up. It's a painful reminder that the guide isn't here to save our lives, but merely to show us the way. We're on our own. Bamil and I frantically share more looks between each other, trying to communicate without words. Neither of us have a desire to speak and be the first to make a choice. The man is standing now, though still hunched with his arms wrapped around himself, as if expecting a blow. He doesn't... where do I get these words? He stares at the ground rather than at us. Because of this, I'm having trouble reading his face. What exactly happened to him?
Are you well, stranger? Do you know where you are and why you're here?
He glances up, not at me, but towards me, his eyes resting somewhere near my collarbone.
I'm fine. You all can go on your way. Forget you even saw me here.
That's absurd. You have no way to defend yourself. We can't leave you.
Yes, I'm sure in your eyes I might not seem like much, but that's not exactly a fair shake. Maybe in a perfect world, every man would be as large as you, but that's not how things always go. It doesn't mean I'm defenseless.
The man's response is meandering. The words themselves seem to be in good jest, but he's still barely looking at us, fidgeting with his hands. Bamil frowns, unimpressed.
It was a joke.
He smiles hesitantly, making eye contact with each of us for the first time.
What part of it was supposed to be the joke? Do you even realize what is happening in this moment?
Never mind. Forget that too. Point is, I'm alright.
You have found yourself out alone and unlit on Sinlos.
Exactly! Something must be wrong with you.
Oh no, sounds like you've been talking with my father.
He lets out a weak little laugh, coupled with an eyebrow raise, voice trembling. No one really knows what to make of this. The man gives a small wave and begins down the path we came. Bamil huffs, tossing his hands into the air.
That's not even the right way.
It is for me.
Oh? You must have come quite a ways if it was the other shore you started on.
Yeah, so he'll be fine. The man's smile grows.
Good. That's not so bad.
There is no response to his remark, unsure of what could be said.
I still think he should come with us. A person needs a light, and the guide himself said he won't be able to manage on his own. Sticking with us is his best option.
I look over the man's body, noticing the scrawniness of his limbs, scrawny but not necessarily lacking in muscle. The bravado he was showing as he tried to leave us has yet faded yet again. And now he's standing quietly, looking at us as if watching a play. Interest, but no true connection to the events.
It's easy for you to say such things, but whose light are you offering? It's not mine, and you are putting her in even more danger with your own presence already.
Bamil's hand turns into fists. He looks away, but doesn't say anything. For a moment, no one does. I feel a cold sweat on my brow as what I feared comes to pass. He's stopping us from protecting another. Why must he get involved now? Why can't he not leave us to make our own decisions?
You... Don't worry about me. I'll be on my way now.
The man's voice is full of something I cannot place. He starts to shuffle back down the way we came, arms still clenched around himself. I know the guide wants to act as though there is no option. However, I could stay back with him. I'll put Bamil and myself at significantly more risk, but at least the man will stand a chance. Fuck no. I can't risk it. Bamil stares at the man as he leaves. We both watch him drag his little frame down the bridge, quickly fading from sight. Bye! We had to let him go. We've already suffered the loss of one of our own. The space that the man vanished into is dark and silent. We can see and hear nothing of him, not even his footsteps. The guide was right. There are no other options. Well, that is what I have to believe. We need to get through this somehow, and being weighed down with guilt will only distract us. The guide starts moving again at a quick pace. After a moment's hesitation, and one last glance into the truly lifeless fog, we run to catch up with him. We walk onwards in silence. Our party hasn't changed. The stranger was never added to it, so it's not as if it makes sense to miss him. But there's a sense of loss all the same. No one even attempts mirth. Though Bamil constantly looks to want to reach out towards my empty hand, always thinking better of it before doing so. I keep thinking I should have done more, should have pushed the guide harder to change his mind, so it was less dangerous to keep the man around. Something, anything. But I have to let this go. I'm not going to forget that man. I'll never forget him. But we still need to get through this. I curl my hands into fists, hoping it'll strengthen my resolve. Then I push forward. We turn down a different path. The guide stops. Ahead of us stands a group of prowlers. At the sound of us, they turn their heads in unison, and as if they knew we were coming, I inhale. The prowlers wriggle somehow, their skin moving more slowly than it should, sliding across their skeletons. They laugh.
We cannot lose another lantern at this point. We're almost to the island.
Very interesting art. There's like a kind of chalk look here, and they decided to use some marker, it looks like. Marker and brush, but they have like a chalk outline. Interesting idea. The guide rummages through his coat with his free hand.
What are you planning?
Bamil's tone is borderline threatening, but the guide ignores him. He pulls out a small pouch, then opens a latch on his lantern.
Wait, are you going to throw that at them? What if the bridge sets on fire?
It will. We're going to run.
This is insane! These bridges are hellish enough without them also being on fire. And what about the other man? If he's still out there, this could...
He's dead. We're not losing another lantern.
He says it with such detached certainty, it's as if he saw it happen himself. No one argues with him. The guide steps closer to the prowlers. We fall onto step behind him, staying close to his back. He bends his lantern down until it is lowered to his outreached arm. The pouch in his hand is set aflame. With a practiced flick of the wrist. Look at the flick of the wrist! Woo! Okay. He swings the staff back up. The glass on the lantern snaps closed.
Don't get left behind.
He takes 3 quick steps, then tosses the pouch. The prowlers are back in the water before the pouch even lands. As soon as it does, the fire starts to lick and curl across itself around the wood. The guide breaks into a sprint, and so do the rest of us. The blaze grows despite the heavy dampness from the lake. These bridges aren't normal bridges, of course, that's true. Nothing here is right. Hopefully they won't collapse with the flames. We stay on the guide's heels, almost too close for comfort. If he stops abruptly, we'll all crash into one another. Maybe even fall off the bridge. Then the world tilts. I was mid-stride when I put my foot down. The bridge isn't where it was. It lurches to one side, either because it was weakened or pushed. Bamil and I manage to keep our ground, as does the guide. He presses on without even bothering to see if we were able to follow. Bamil growls in frustration as we push to keep up with the guide's pace. As our storm of feet thunder across the boards, a silver begins to rise into view just above the edge of the water. Silver.
It's the island.
The island. I squint and suddenly make out the craggy forms of land and earth. I see it. We're almost there. Safety, at long last in sight. New energy surges through me. We push ourselves faster, longing to put these godforsaken bridges behind our backs. All at once, the bridge ends, and our entire group rushes ashore. Earth, solid earth, a haven from the water. I catch my breath while still moving even further away from the dark shoreline. I can't believe we actually made it. Even more difficult is the idea that we're only halfway done. When night falls once more, we have to do it all again. A heavy arm falls across my shoulders, and I straighten to see Bamil smiling wearily at me.
Good work out there.
It's not the usual accommodation of a job well done. There's sadness, perhaps even sympathy in the sentence. It ends flatly. With a sigh, he leans his head to the side, having it rest slightly against mine. Usually Bamil's comfort and good nature gives me at least the urge to smile, but right now it feels like a hollow victory. Despite still having the comfort of one another, we were incapable of doing any true good. We were only able to save ourselves. A quiet moment passes between us. And then the guide is there. He moves so smoothly that his steps on the soft sand are nearly silent, and his dusky clothes blend with the thinning of the night. I'm gonna save this just in case.
The sun will rise soon. The fire on the bridge is the only reason this island isn't overrun with prowlers right now. However, they could still pose a threat.
Bamil levels an empty look toward the guide.
Is there something we should do?
Come. The guide takes us to an area a bit further inland, but not too far from the water. Trees partially obscure our location, and there's enough room to watch the coast in case prowlers start to emerge from the water. Essentially, it's a place where an ambush would be hard.
If any of you see anything at all, speak up. We don't want them to sneak up on us.
Almost automatically, each member of the group turns to a different direction. As the sky continues to fade from pale purple to a muted blue, the water stays silent. For the first time, nothing happens. It is a miracle. Suddenly, my chest is lighter and the air is fresher. The first pricks of light appear over the horizon, stinging my eyes after such a long journey through darkness. A sound catches my attention as I move my focus toward its direction. The guide is opening the latch on his lantern again. He gently, almost respectfully, blows out the light.
We no longer have to worry about the Nixie. It is over for today.
I'm almost unable to keep tears of relief from pouring out at those words. We made it through the night. We survived. No one feels the need to speak. We look at each other and understanding passing between us. Then we find our own space, as comfortable as we can get, and lay down for the rest we weren't sure would ever come. Okay, save again. Yeah. I don't know how far we are in this game, but we've already been going for about an hour, I think. Yeah, we've been going more than an hour. I'm gonna keep going, but I think at about 2 a.m. my time, I'm probably gonna head off. But let me get something real quick. Hey, fat bud. Just coming over here to get something to drink. I need something to drink. My throat's starting to hurt a little bit from talking so much. Alright. My eyes slowly blink open and readjust to the brightness. What little there is. The sun is obscured by a thick layer of fog, making it impossible to estimate the time of day. I prop up my elbows and push myself up. The ground is hard and rocky, but that isn't the only reason I am eager to get on my feet. I check my surroundings. The harsh, craggy earth of the island is interlaced with twisting vines and gnarled branches. Beside me, Bamil is fast asleep. The guide, however, is nowhere to be seen. I realize that I don't recall seeing him lay down with everyone. It's likely he left us hours ago. There is a creeping silence here. I can't help but shudder at the hollow, aching feeling inside of me. It refuses to relent. I shift my weight back and forth, unsure of what to do with myself. Memories of last night's harrowing journey flicker through my mind. Bamil wakes suddenly, rising with alarm. My mouth opens, then shuts, and after a moment of fumbling, a word finally escapes.
Hello.
Bamil gives me a gentle smile and makes his way over to me.
Morning.
A pocket of quiet descends over us. Bamil sighs. The atmosphere is weighing on him already.
We should eat something soon.
Yes.
A distinct rustling of the leaves around catches my attention. The guide appears emerging from the thicket. Bamil glares at him as he makes his way over.
The Nixie will not tread on land in daylight. However, being near the shoreline is still dangerous. If you leave the center of the island, remain cautious. Before the sun sets, I will be in this area. It would be wise to meet me here before nightfall.
Why do you do this?
I sharply turn towards Bamil as he snarls and confronts the guide.
If you had just let him follow behind us, if you had been there before, none of this would have happened. They didn't have to die.
The guide looks away, seemingly unaffected.
If all you're going to do is leave everyone to be lost, then why bother guiding us at all?
Despite Bamil's severe words, the guide apparently considers his piece here finished. He turns toward the forested area from which he came.
Wait!
Bamil calls out to the guide, reaching towards him. Before he can make contact, I quickly place a hand on his shoulder. He lowers his arm to his side, though I can still feel wrath emanating from him. We stay this way until the guide disappears from view. Bamil begins to kick at the ground, spraying tiny pieces of gravel about.
Bamele, I know you're angry, but regardless of our feelings, we need the guide. If he leaves us, we'll all die.
And we've done so well with him.
I give him a cold glance. We won't even know which bridge to take without the guide. Bamil knows that. This needs to stop. There are people counting on us to make it back.
We can't afford to lose our way.
The anger etched into his expression fades into sadness.
I can't stay here right now.
Quietly, I speak. I need to be alone. Bamil, wait. I'm going to speak with the guide. I don't... don't want to leave him alone. I speak softly for Bamil to hear. Are you fucking kidding? Lingering for a moment, I start following the trail Bamil took. It doesn't take him long to notice I'm there, and he slows his pace so I can easily catch up. We fall into step for a short while, neither of us speaking. Eventually, we come to a thick stand of trees and wordlessly weave our way through the branches. Once we're hidden by the foliage, Bamil leans against a tree trunk, head hung low. Negativity radiates off of him, but I don't know what I should say. Unfortunately, he breaks the silence. Or, fortunately, I don't know why I put that in there. It is late. I'm tired. Shut up. Fortunately, he breaks the silence.
I apologize for back there.
I nod firmly. His replay isn't unexpected. For as long as I have known Bamil, he has had a tendency to let his temper flare, then regret it later, after processing his thoughts.
I know that dealing with these sorts of situations calmly is part of the job, but I cannot tell myself everything is fine or that none of it matters. Sure, I can feel something without it being anger, but I've not figured that out either.
Rather than speak, I try to listen as supportively as I can while Bamil continues to argue with himself. He sighs while pensively rubbing the bridge of his nose.
Am I simply being foolish? Would it really have been so harmful to try and help someone else instead of focusing solely on oneself? It looks to me like we're telling ourselves these lines to avoid responsibility.
I don't know. It's possible you helping would have worked better. It's also possible it would have been worse.
Bamil stares across the empty waters of Sinlos.
I want it to be clear that I have not forgotten that those people across this lake are depending upon us. Not for a moment. But would they want us to be so focused on them that we should turn a blind eye to others right in front of us? Even if they would, does that matter? We are more than weapons. We are people. Do we have to cast that aside, turn away from our fellow humans, just to achieve a so-called greater good? It is not as though this village is a haven of saints. They are only as worthwhile as we are and these people on the bridges with us, aren't they?
I don't know.
I could feel the weight of his words settle upon me. I have had similar thoughts, and have questioned what the correct choice is. But unlike Bamil, I have always been silent. I clenched my fist tight to try to stop from saying something rash. Bamil closes his eyes tight and rubs his face again. It is clear this hasn't been enough to give him much peace. Eventually, his eyes reopen and look directly into mine.
What do you think about all this, Kika? Please, be honest with me. I want to hear it.
Suddenly, my eyes are hot. My vision blurs slightly from tears I desperately am trying to hold back.
I really don't know. That is the truth.
My words are soft, whether he heard or not. The look on my face is enough to garner attention. My eyebrows shoot up in surprise. What? He walks over to me slowly, concerned.
Kika, what is troubling you?
I don't have the answers to what you are wondering. Who are we meant to protect? Everyone we can? Whoever we're told to serve and no one else? Just ourselves? Should we only try to protect others when the risk is minimal? I have no idea what the right option is.
Bamil's confusion only mounts with my words.
I am sorry for disappointing you.
No! You haven't disappointed me in any way. I never should have expected someone else to give me answers to those kinds of questions. It is only... I did not think that...
He does not finish his thought, but I know what he meant to say.
You did not think I was concerned with these issues?
He smiles awkwardly over being caught.
Yes. You never seemed to be bothered by anything we experienced before now.
With his words, my carefully held resolve crumbles. In an instant, my cheeks are wet with hot fluid, cooling in the chill air as it slips down my face.
I have always cared. I've always been afraid and confused, but I have kept up a...
I stop and gasp for air, my throat almost as tight as when we were running on the bridges.
a farce of strength in order to get by.
I breathe deeply with relief, terrified and lightheaded from my confession. Bamil's voice is as delicate as flower petals.
I had no idea. How could I not have noticed?
Because I did whatever I could to make sure no one did. I have never wished to appear weak in front of others. But the truth is, I barely get through each day. I often feel overwhelmed with sadness at all that we have experienced.
And that's the true shit, though. Because people have experienced some fucked up shit. Like those monsters, that could be the monsters. Those monsters are everyday life. Sometimes it's hard to deal. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to. Bamil gently places a hand on my shoulders as I try not to sob wildly.
Kika, I truly apologize for all the thoughtless things I have said to you.
I shake my head, sniffling.
There is no need for you to apologize.
He smiles, the warmth almost enough to make me forget the damp.
I beg to differ. I have failed to treat you right.
But Differ's dead. No.
You have always been respectful.
A person needs more than respect from their comrades. They also need support. I have never given you that kind of consideration because I believed someone like you did not need it.
The same could be said for me.
Nonsense. You have listened to my rambling on more occasions than I can remember. Though I admit my memories may not be there due to being drunk many of those times.
Bamil laughs at himself while glancing in my direction to encourage me to do the same. His comforting words make me smile, and I feel my tears finally cease to fall. Then I will continue to support you. Still, it's not necessary. He grins wider than he has since we began this horrible journey.
You have my thanks.
And you have mine.
Abruptly, his expression becomes serious once more.
I will come to answer these questions someday. But no matter what I decide, I will still put trust in your judgment.
I fear I may not live up to the belief he seems to have in me, but I nod firmly. He returns my nod.
Perhaps we should go check how everything is on the island.
That sounds like an excellent idea. And I will accompany you, of course.
Glad to hear it.
Together, we walk back toward the interior of the island. Both our moods lift as we stay side by side. Bamil and I head through the wooded part of the island. There isn't anything that could be called a path, but we managed to pick our way through the bush quite well. Through a thinner stand of trees, we briefly catch sight of the guide standing on one of the beaches. He seems fine, but even though I'm sure he turned his head toward me, he makes no show of acknowledging us. It takes less time than I would have hoped for us to see all that there is on this isolated place. Now we will have to spend time simply waiting, a far more unpleasant task. We seat ourselves underneath a large tree at the meeting point. There's no sign of the sun setting, and I find myself becoming increasingly restless. I release a breath. I've yet to shake the dark and troubling thoughts coursing through my mind. A pat on my back grants me a moment's reprieve. It truly is just the two of us. Deep sorrow stirs inside me at that thought. However, having Bamil here with me gives at least some comfort. I lean against his shoulder and he doesn't move to stop me. We sit together quietly as we wait for the sun to descend from the sky. The sky turns orange as sunset comes upon us. As the color seems to drain from the world, being consumed by the fog, the guide makes his appearance.
It's almost time.
I nod and feel myself grow tense. We truly are about to return to those bridges. All of us wait in an uncomfortable silence until night falls. Night settles like a shroud over the land, every inch of the world now covered in unrelenting darkness. Suddenly, there is a gurgling. The water parts as the bridges of Sinlos rise, powered by some unnatural force, creaking like they might fall apart. So I didn't know that the bridges didn't exist in the morning time. I'm like, these guys like these little monster things like the nighttime, and they don't like day. Why don't you go in the day? You can't go in the day because the bridges disappear. Creepy. I feel an inexplicable pounding like a hammer in the back of my head, beating faster and heavier than my own heart. I clench my teeth to stop it from churning my stomach.
We must go now.
The guide doesn't wait for any replies, briskly starting in the direction of the shore. Bramil and I watch his pace. I can feel the air weighing on us, a sensation that slows our steps despite being rested. Something hovers in my mind, the mirrored memory of the beginning of last night's journey. One day ago feels like a lifetime passed. The thick, inky water sloshes reluctantly off of the boards, bleeding back into the lake until finally it stills. A shudder crawls over my body as I place my foot on the boards, but I quickly shake it off. I have no other option. We have to go through this again. All tense as day-old corpses, we walk over the bridges in silence. The only sound that accompanies us is the thick lapping of the water at the bridge. Bamil stays close by my side with a sour expression on his face. He evidently has little interest in masking his disgust. He murmurs something under his breath, but it's inaudible. I decide not to ask about it. It wasn't meant for me to hear. What's that sound? It feels as though barely any time has passed when it is explained that half the night has crept by. We encountered a few sunken bridges which forced us to reroute, while other paths were rotten enough to make us stagger our steps. However, the biggest threat of all is eerily absent, the prowlers. I haven't seen more than shadowy glimpses of them down other paths, and even those may have simply been tricks of the fog. I feel I may be even more on edge tonight than the last. Judging by Mamil's tenseness, that he isn't set at ease by their lack of presence either. Sometimes I can English, other times I can't.
Why?
I don't know. I whisper the question softly, almost silently, as I scan left and right across the impossibly empty bridges for any sign of movement. I ponder whether they're still wary from the consuming blaze that lit up the night yesterday, or if there are less dragging themselves across the bridge than usual because many have already gotten what they wanted, which is, a dead person. My skin crawls with the torch of icy fingers. What? Oh, that's why it didn't make sense, because I said torch instead of touch. My skin crawls with the touch of icy fingers at the thought, and I can't control the sharp shiver that travels down my spine. Bamil catches my concern, and he brings himself closer to my ear.
This isn't right. It shouldn't be nearly this easy to cross. Not after what we went through the other night.
Could they be planning something?
Bamil lightly shakes his head. He speaks with suspicion in his voice as he peers at the guide ahead.
I don't know.
As time passes by, we continue to see nothing but more bridges and fog. Beside me, Bamil is becoming more and more agitated the longer we go without disruption. I can read Bamil well enough to know that his anger is still directed at the guide rather than the bridges themselves. It was my hope that we would be able to contain his feelings toward our lead until we had to put this maze behind us. That is becoming unlikely. I resolve to step in before he grows too heated, and there is yet another hazardous argument.
Your concentration is clouded, Bamele. What is troubling you?
Surely you're already
Bamele.
aware. It's him.
Bamele, or Bamil, whatever. I've been calling him Bamil, so. Glowers hatefully at the guide. I purse my lips for a moment before continuing, resigned.
I do know that. However, you need to stop allowing that to consume you, or else you could get hurt. Or even...
Bamil realizes, then exasperated sigh releases, not realizes. Bamil releases an exasperated sigh while crossly folding his arms.
That is impossible. I can't stop myself from thinking about it. Everything makes so much sense now. That is impossible.
What do you mean by that?
I thought I missed something.
Recall yesterday. I asked him why he would lead others at all if he was heartlessly going to leave them behind. What if this is the reason? Before, we could scarcely escape these monsters, and now I can't even hear a whisper of one. What if they're already satisfied with what they've taken?
My eyes widen and I stifle a gasp. The situation at hand, given both of us a reason to think on that possibility, is absolutely unsettling. But his conclusion is even worse still. The notion of the guide allowing others to die unnecessarily, on purpose to make it less dangerous for the remaining few, that is not something I was prepared for.
Even back when we started, the first time we met the guide, he mentioned that at least one of us would die before the journey was finished. Didn't that exchange seem strange to you? He said it as though it was a price to pay for coming with him.
I guess.
The guide is free to do as he pleases. He can and will threaten to leave the entire group behind at so much as a hint of resistance. Nothing is stopping him. He knew this was going to happen. He had to know.
I took a few moments to breathe. Despite my anger, I only barely resist shutting my eyes against the world.
We need to make it to the other side. We must keep moving forward and survive. The guide is our only way across.
My usual reply to Bamil's Bamele, whatever, words does not make an impression. His eyes are not swayed. He continues to stare into me.
I am saying he cannot be trusted with our lives at this very moment. I need an answer to that, Kika. What do you really think?
I do not agree. We can discuss at the end. Say nothing. I don't agree. Bamil's face darkens for a moment. I continue. I don't fucking agree because he's the one that knows this shit.
The guide may
So
not
get the
care
fuck
what
over
fate
it.
lies ahead for us, that is fair to say. But that is
Fuck those
not the
people.
same as intentionally conspiring against us.
Bamil opens his mouth and attempts to counter. However, I raise my palm to stop him.
Perhaps you may be right, Bamele. I'm not blindly trusting the guide, nor am I unaware of how he is a deeply suspicious figure. However, I believe it's too early to come to such a dire conclusion.
He seems to have more to say on the matter, but he finally sighs and drops the topic. Instead, he pensively looks forward, and we continue on. Like, get the fuck over it. Stop being so noble. Like, 2 people probably fucking died. 1 person obviously fucking died. The other dude, I don't know where he is. I don't give a shit. Our progress continues steadily, and we encounter no significant difficulties.
How much longer until we reach the other side? We've traveled quite a ways.
Bamil's quiet, breaking question doesn't sound particularly enthused.
It should only be another couple of hours.
Huh.
Bamil is unconvinced. It is not only I who notices. The guide suddenly stops, eerily. He turns his head to the side and looks back at us.
Is there a problem with that?
Is there?
We've progressed through the bridges at a much quicker clip this time. Bamil's question was not idly curiosity. He was confirming that fact for himself. I should have known. The guide looks to be slightly irritated over the attitude Bamil has taken.
If you have something to say, you should say it. Unless you're afraid that I'm going to leave you behind.
I wouldn't blame you. His statement lands heavily on us. Did he listen to our conversation? There were no sounds to cover our voices. However, I had assumed we were far enough away from the guide to keep our words to ourselves. He stares with such an icy expression, I nearly freeze in place, whatever. Bamil, on the other hand, heats up and grows more hostile. He leaves my side to rush into the guide's flickering light.
Don't.
This is going much too far. I urge him to come back. He ignores me and takes a stand facing the guide.
Am I right? Are you going to leave us behind after what I've done?
The guide isn't bothered at all by Bamil entering his space. He gives it a level answer.
No.
Well, that's grand. In that case, I'd like to know if I'm on the right track about something else. Are the monsters missing because they've already eaten? Or is there some other reason why they've all mysteriously vanished?
The guide pauses for a moment. His eyes close, and he becomes completely still.
It's possible.
Bamil glares at the guide over the admittance. It's as though he heard nothing after the first line the guide spoke. The guide is unfazed.
If you enter these bridges, all you should expect is death. That is no secret. You need to stop putting so much energy into finding meaning, or else you will end up like the others.
Bamil ends up speechless, caught off guard by the guide openly discussing his accusation. The guide continues at Bamil's silence, annoyance leaking into his voice.
You think that the results would have been different if only I had said more or did something differently. But that is not true.
Yeah.
The conclusion would be exactly the same. If Lou hadn't died when he did, he would have been lost at some other point during the trip.
Lou?
Yes, Lou was his name. I had spoken with him in the past. He wanted to cross the bridges. I had deemed him unfit. He was far too desperate and unprepared. There's no helping someone like that.
The guide sounds even more agitated as he elaborates. Bamil seems to be finished with being surprised. His anger reignites.
If that's all well and true, why haven't you died yet? How is it that you've been able to cross these horrendous bridges over and over again without suffering the same consequences as everyone else?
The guide's face twists into a vicious snarl. He shouts.
I have died! I have no life to give. Everything I am, everything I could have been, was surrendered to this lake. That is the only reason why I'm able to stand before you now. I can show you the way, and I can give you advice on how to survive the perils you will face. That is all I'm able to offer. Is that not enough for you? What else do you want from me? Kindness? Sympathy? It's been far too many years since I was capable of giving anything like that.
He finally stops to catch a breath, though the emotion in his eyes still shines intently. There is no response from either of us. An agonizing silence permeates the air. No one dares to even move. Jesus, that scared me. The tension is cut as the boards beneath me start to creak. My eyes dart down. The bridge is sinking rapidly. Instinctively, I jump backwards, but the new section of the bridge groans horribly as it too starts to tilt into the water. They keep getting further and further away with each disappearing platform I move off of.
Kika!
I look up at Bamil's call. My chest tightens when I see him and the guide on what has become the other side of the small chasm. I leap back and just in time as the bridge under me snaps like a twig. Glancing over again, they keep getting farther and farther away with each disappearing platform I move off of. Dread creeps up my neck and I nearly lose my footing once I realize what's happening. Desperately stumbling backwards, I manage to regain my balance. I use this to leap far enough back that the bridge I land on does not immediately start to fall apart under my weight. In another 3 swift steps, I am finally on sturdy wood. The bridges reluctantly stop, shifting and settle. The only trace left of what was once a huge section of the bridge is a few splintered boards floating in the murky water. The lake consumed it. Somehow I'm not surprised. Regaining my bearings, I face what has become of my circumstances. I am now separated from Bamil and the guide by a far wider gorge than anyone could leap. My throat goes bone dry as I teeter at the end of the bridge, mind wildly scrambling for a solution that doesn't come. I lock onto Bamil's face. He's completely aghast, darting from one side of the bridge to the other like a panicked animal. There is no mistaking that he's desperate to help me in some way. However, there's also no mistaking that there aren't any options available to him. He turns to the guide with pleading eyes. All his earlier hostility sunk in with the bridges. I'm too far off to grasp when Bamil is asking, but I get the impression he is seeing if there's another way. The guide turns to me. He's completely cooled down from the earlier interaction, back to his same placid expression. He focuses back on Bamil, who has now gripped him by the cloak. The guide says one word. Judging from the look of pure terror on Bamil's face, I can only assume it was no. There's no way back to them. The guide frees himself from Bamil's grasp and continues speaking. Bamil still seems horribly shaken at his words. I can barely see from here, but I think he's quivering. As I watch the two discuss my fate, unable to say anything, fear starts to crawl over me. My arms run cool to cold to freezing. It's not long before the rest of my body follows. I notice Bamil cover his face with his still shuddering hand. The guide's voice echoes loudly across the waters, separating me from them.
Go back and take the next bridge you come across that goes west. There may be enough time for you to find your own way.
I blink, taken aback for a moment, before I quickly regain my composure. That's right, this isn't over. I still have my lantern with me. The prowlers are less active, and if the guide says that it's possible, it could be true. I nod solemnly at his words and yell back.
I'll meet you there! Don't wait for me!
He bows his head and starts to slowly back away from the edge. Bamil pulls his head from his hand to look at me. Even across the water I can tell that he's crying. I detest the idea of having to part ways with Bamil. However, I know that there's no other way. I smile forlornly at him as the wind whips against my back. I speak softly.
You need to go.
There's no way he could have heard me, yet I'm confident that the sentiment got across. I spin on my heels and run back the way I came, searching for the bridge the guide said to take. I can only hope that we all safely reunite before this night ends. Well then, that happened. I spare a brief glance behind me, however there's not a trace of them or even the dead end I was stranded at. With a painful contracting of my heart, I realize that I am truly alone now. Quickly I shake off the thought and refocus my attention on what's in front of me. The first branching off of the path comes into reach. I slow down to a calmer pace and begin my progress down the western bridge. It would be reckless to consider going against the guide's directions. I walk at a moderately brisk pace, not wanting to risk tipping or running out of energy in a moment where I need it. If the eeriness of the lake was disconcerting before, now it is overwhelming. The blizzard-like fog drifting over the waters limits my vision to the span of my arms. Oh God, are those eyes of these thingies? The utter silence was a comfort, despite how otherworldly it felt, but the whispering of the lake has started to stir now. I gulp, despite myself. They've noticed me. As their chattering grows, I consider briefly if the others hear them as well, or if they have come out specifically because I'm on my own. I straighten my back and walk more surely. I cannot let them believe I am an easy target. I even consider keeping my sword in hand, but it doesn't seem entirely likely they would realize it is something that could hurt them. To keep my mind from wandering into dark places, I count my steps like we used to in training. 1, 2, 3, 4. Despite my best efforts, things are starting to get to me. My worries wash over me, causing painful twinges underneath my clothes that make me jerk and twitch like a fly-bitten horse. Ugh. The whispering in human voices, the feeling of vulnerability, the horrible thought of being hopelessly lost, all melded together and is consuming me. My pace breaks from the steady rhythm of my counting set. It quickens more as I start to succumb to fear. My brisk steps turn into long, frantic strides. Something in me whispers, "Faster, go faster. Don't let them catch you." I listen. I break into a run, like moving on landmines. Flashes of fear explode in my mind and drive my feet harder, faster, stronger. That reminds me of the song. Along the path. Until suddenly my sense of reason returns and I stop dead. My chest rises and falls with deep heaving breaths as I try to calm myself down. The monsters erupt into an inharmonious chorus of what sounds to be wicked laughs. I fight the urge to shout back at the creatures. This feels like a nightmare I will never wake up from. I take another breath and resume my measured progress. Even after the first crossroad, I continue with the guide's simple direction. Keep west. Every chance I get, I have no other hints for this labyrinth. It's difficult to tell how much time has passed. It must be at least an hour, judging by by how much energy I've expended. Since I recomposed myself, I have not stopped walking for a second, despite how much time has worn on. The route still feels like an endless abyss. Then I hear a noise which causes a shuddering chill to creep down my spine. Ugh. I got actual chills right now. An uneven clicking followed by a squelching sound. It's a prowler. I immediately turn to look behind me. There's nothing. I don't like how silent it is. I breathe out, relieved. My ears search for the source of the noise, but with all the babble the Nixie are making, the direction is clouded. I strain my ears. That's it. The noise is drifting slowly from one of the connecting paths up ahead. I can faintly tell the noise is drawing nearer. The prowler has not yet not arrived yet, but soon its path will intersect with my own. I will not wait for it to reveal itself, leaving me two options. I can run past the bridge connection to get ahead of it, or I turn back and find a new path to take. Go past it. I have faith that following the same path I've been is for the best. I steel myself and build up speed. I get closer and closer to the branch with the lurking threat and press up my pace so I'm sprinting. I hear a gurgling hiss as I pass through the crossroad. It must have been close enough to be pained by the light. I barely made it. However, I didn't hear any splash. It is still nearby. I look behind me to see if it at least decided to come no further. Oh my god. That literally fucking scared me. Horrified, I realize that it's pointedly following me. It is no longer mindlessly dragging itself through blackness. I have become its target. I literally got a pinch of like painful chill when that thing popped up. Its limbs bent wildly and unnaturally. It looks as though it's only barely keeping itself upright as its torso wobbles on its hips. That isn't stopping it from giving chase. I focus my view back ahead and continue to run. My breathing rapidly becomes ragged. I can still hear the squishing footsteps of the prowler behind me as it lunges its body forward in that unnatural gait. Without warning, the bridge lurches to one side. Catching me completely off guard, I lose my footing and slam onto the damp surface of the bridge. My light falls with me, painfully snuffing out. Uh-oh. Splashes and the excited stirring of many voices come from the lake. How? Why? Is it rotting? Or did they push the support beams? I'm left with no time to ponder the mystery as the monster draws near. I scramble back on my feet as it closes in. Grabbing my dark lantern, I resume running to put some space between us again. I open the latch on the lantern and pull out a match. I'll have to slow down at least briefly to properly light the flame without it blowing out. With death still on my heels, I must not let one precious moment be wasted. Set on my plan, and with everything in hand, I begin to decrease my speed. No. See, it was too close anyway. If I would have done that, I would have gotten grabbed anyway. I let out a loud scream as the prowler lashes onto my body from behind. I think I killed myself. No. It slashes its long claws against my armor on my sides. I wince. It hisses violently as we struggle madly against each other. I try to fight down the pain, but it scratches at me again. I still resist against the creature, trying to pull it off me. It is no use. Its strength is beyond that of any human. I dig my heels into the boards in one last desperate attempt to escape, but soon am aware the Nyx has me at the bridge edge. I push against it before it hurls its body off the edge of the bridge, bringing me down along with it. Fuck. I think I just killed myself. Water engulfs my vision, heavy and cold, so thick I can't even hear my own thrashing. I try to grab my sword, try to fight back, but I can't even get it out of the hilt. Resistance against me is all-encompassing. Something grabs my arm and then my waist. I get pulled from side to side, or further down. First one way, then the other. The water feels like a solid substance, and being dragged against it is like I'm being pressed through something. I'm in so much pain I cannot sleep. I'm sorry, Gail. I hope you feel better. Take some medicine or something to help. My vision grows darker and darker. I can't tell whether I'm going lower or whether I'm losing consciousness. My arms flail to bring me closer to wherever the surface is, but nothing is working. Complete darkness engulfs me. Was everything I've done worth it? I must believe that it was. I killed myself. Panic is the achievement that we got. Okay, well it's 2:11 in the morning, and that was Lake of Voices. I probably got the worst ending that you could get. I fucking killed myself, and I killed that one chick. Boy. Damn it. Oh, well. That was pretty cool. I don't know, if you guys think that this is pretty cool, I may try to get some different endings. There's 5 different endings. I'm pretty sure it said we just got the first ending, which I guess the ending name was Panic. And I'm pretty sure that I'm missing one here. Although this is probably for the story that we got for the pictures. So yeah, there's still more storylines. If you want to see more, let me know. For the people that are watching this after I've streamed it. But this is Lake of Voices, free horror visual novel game. Free on Steam. You can play it yourself to get the other endings, or you can wait and I may do some more endings. I have a different game in line for next week, which will be a game called You Must Be 18 or Older to Enter. I don't know if it's sort of like a funny like horror, but it's based around the 1990s. You're like a 1990s kid and you're gonna look up porn or something. But it's supposed to be a horror genre game, and I'm pretty sure it's not gonna show anything. It's very pixelated and sort of like an old-timey kind of thing. But I'm excited to take a look at that next week. So we will see you on week, what is it? Yeah, we missed week 1. I was still sick, but this is going to be for this week. We will be seeing you guys on week 3 next week with You Must Be 18 or Older to Enter. And if you have any games that you want me to play, let me know down in the comments below. And thank you guys for watching, and thank you for the people that have stuck around. Thank you, Gail. Hello. I took ibuprofen, but I did a high ropes course yesterday, and you use every muscle in your body. I do not like the high ropes thing. I don't really like heights when I'm not secure. Like, I'll fly in a plane and a helicopter. I've been like on top of the Sears Tower, which is a pretty high tower in Chicago here in Illinois. I'm not scared of heights, but I'm scared of being insecure in heights. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and thank you for sticking around, and I hope to see you in future streams or in future videos. I may make videos of the rest of these endings, but let me know if you want to see the rest of the endings. There's only 4 more endings. Just let me know. So again, thank you for watching. Stay frosty, my floofers, and have an awesome night/day, because it's October 7th, 2 a.m., so it's sort of morning already. Okay. I'm gonna go. Have a good night, guys. Stay frosty, my floofers, and have a paw 5, even though I don't have my paws. Bye. Bye.